Alright, guys, welcome to Flavo Rihanna's MMA show. I'm your host, Flavo Rihanna, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. Alright, guys, so just 2 nights ago, we had UFC Vegas35 Giga Chikadze versus Edson Barboza. And, guys, great main event, something I was very looking forward to. Alright, the card up from top to bottom was pretty stellar. I gotta admit that. And for what we ended up seeing with Giga Chikadze, the tough finale, for the bantamweights and the middleweights. We also saw the return of Kevin Lee. All right, you had a Gerald Mearshart fight, and then in the prelims, Adrian Yanez's teammate, Anna Martinez, who missed weight by 4 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. He made his debut. Stellar, debut. Got very emotional. The head coach of the Metro Fight Club is Solis. Head coach Solis ended up passing away, and that was one of the reasons why Amanda Martinez ended up missing weight. But got very emotional, and it was very well expected and very understandable why he ended up breaking down. We had Pat Sabatini facing Jamal Emmers, if you guys don't remember, he was one of the guys that fought Giga Chikadze. And Giga Chikadze, in that fight, it was a very close fight. I mean, there were some people that really thought, and people like myself at one point thought, I was like, wow, I think Emmers got robbed. But, from Emmers, hurting Pat Sabatini to jumping onto mount and going for, I believe it was like a toe lock, an ankle lock, and Sabatini turns that around into a heel hook. And guys, I want to say this: don't play around with heel hooks. Don't play around with heel hooks. Don't play around with heel hooks. Luckily, nothing serious happened to Emmers' knee. No structural damage or anything like that. But man, it looked scary because of the fact that you saw Emmers, crying in agony, screaming. And he was in so much pain. Honestly, I thought that he tore his ACL right off the bat. That's the first thing that jumps to my mind when Sabatini locked in that heel hook and he was forced to tap out. But you don't mess around with heel hooks at all. Never mess around with heel hooks. We had a JJ Aldrich versus Vanessa Demopoulos. The fight of many fouls with Sam Alvey versus Wellington Thurman. That was a pretty good long of a fight. Wellington Thurman got a 2-point deduction from multiple eye pokes and still won the fight. Alvey was pissed. I've never seen Sam Alvey get that infuriated. And then the Alessio De Jericho, who many of you guys know of him knocking out Joaquin Buckley, he ended up fighting former welterweight. He moved up to middleweight now, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. And what a knockout. Definitely deserved those 50 G's. But guys, I've been talking for 3 minutes. Let me get straight into the main event. Main event of Giga Chikadze versus Edson Barboza. Now, Giga Chikadze, he's been calling out everybody. Everybody from, Max Holloway, Volkanovski. I believe he's even called out Ortega. He just wants to get as close as close and as fast towards the title shot as possible. He is entering this fight. He was 6-0 in the UFC. His latest fight was Cub Swanson, and he landed the Giga kick, and it went viral. Everybody in the MMA community ended up seeing that. Everybody ended up seeing the fact that he was, he's the real deal. I mean, he was a K1 kickboxer, all right? Has multiple accolades, and now he's trying to make it into the UFC. He wants to become the first Georgian fighter to claim gold in the UFC, and it seems like he's on the right path, because in that fight between Barboza, obviously we know him. He's been around for quite some time. We know of the spinning heel, spinning wheel kicks. We saw the fight he had with Shane Burgos, which that was a crazy fight. We saw the fight that he had with Benil Dariush. Obviously he had some downfalls fighting Khabib, which everybody gets mauled and ground and pounded by Khabib. But this fight, it just seemed like Giga Chikadze was just way too quick and way too fast for Edson Barboza, which normally I would not say that, against one of Edson's opponents. But the footwork, the hand speed. I believe the hand speed is one of the reasons why Giga ended up winning this fight, because I don't think Barboza was planning on seeing that type of speed from Giga Chikadze when it comes to his hands. His striking was phenomenal. All right. But Barboza, I felt like his game plan was not the right type of game plan that you want to have facing a Giga Chikadze. Yes, attacking the body is always something you want to do, but Giga was just moving around, had excellent footwork. He should have really attacked a little bit more on the legs. He should at least try to go high, low, high, low, high, low. All right, to create some type of confusion, because it was usually the body and then very little action on the legs. Also, Barboza was trying to set his feet in. He was trying to find, different ways to get around Giga, and Giga Chikadze was just moving around. He felt if he would feel like a good enough leg kick, he'll switch stances, and then he will rotate around towards the left, towards the right, and it was just towards the third round, it was more of an onslaught, and Giga Chikadze just let everything out. Giga was winning the first 2 rounds, and then going into the third round, it was over. It was over. Giga Chikadze hurt Edson Barboza in a way that last time I seen him get that hurt, it had to be the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight. But obviously Khabib is not gonna, outstrike you. He's not gonna, hurt you with kicks and punches, standing up on the floor. Yeah, definitely. But Giga Chikadze, hits you with the Giga kick, tries to hit you in the liver, or towards the body. Then goes with the leg kicks. Then he will try to, set you up by going with a high kick. Then he's gonna try to exchange in punches with you. And he just seems like a definite problem in a very fantastic featherweight division. Now here's a problem: the featherweights, right, are starting to become like what the welterweights are. It's not a lot of movement. Look, we haven't seen Max fight in what? I know he's fighting Yair, right, in November, if I'm not mistaken. We haven't seen Max fight since January. He was supposed to fight Yair in July, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Max that got hurt. I could be wrong in camp, right? So the fight had to get pulled off. We haven't seen Yair fight since he fought Jeremy Stephens in Boston in 2019. We haven't seen Zabit fight since 2019, right? Josh Emmett, I totally understand. You can't really do anything about that. Injuries is a different story. I mean, he tore, his ACL, his PCL, his MCL, and he's most likely not fighting this year. He's most likely fighting early 2022. So who do you really fight? Because Giga Chikadze, when he won, he says he wants to be the backup fighter for Ortega versus Volkanovski, which you never want to volunteer yourself to do something like that. Reason why I'm saying that is because why would you want to be second fiddle towards that? You want to get yourself into the title shot. You called out Max. Max is, he said in an interview that he doesn't really know who Giga is, that he's a guy that knows how to kick and stuff, and that's about it. And he got really offended by that, which I understand. But there's no way and chance that Giga Chikadze is going to get Max Holloway in his next fight. All right, unless Max was to lose to Yair and possibly lose to somebody else. Just don't see that happening. I think, honestly, the next fight that I see for Giga Chikadze has to be Korean Zombie. Now, Korean Zombie ended up beating up on Dan Ige. He lost before that to Brian Ortega, who Ortega is challenging Volkanovski for the title on September 25th. So I could see, Chikadze fighting the Korean Zombie. The question is when. Because it just seems like Chikadze wants to be active and get closer towards the title shot than many of us anticipate for him to get to the title shot. And the featherweight division is stacked, right? From 15 to 1 or 15 to the champ is very stacked. The only problem is within that top 5, there's not that much traction and movement. It's one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC. But from Max Holloway to Brian Ortega, who he hasn't fought since October, right? So it's going to be almost a year. But I understand, COVID with Volkanovski, then doing a tough show, it extended out and it really held back on the division. And it makes me wonder if we didn't have so many delays with Tough, right? With Max Holloway not fighting since January. It was supposed to fight in July, but it got pushed back now to November. Who would have Giga Chikadze would have fought? I'm still thinking it would have been the Korean Zombie, but it's just a question that I'm thinking about at this very moment. But yeah, Chikadze most likely fighting the Korean Zombie next. He could fight Dan Ige, but here's the thing. If it's not the Korean Zombie, I'm highly thinking that's most likely going to end up being Josh Emmett. And the reason why I say that, we're going into September come Wednesday, correct? Emmett may come back December. I'm predicting he's most likely going to end up coming back more towards early 2022, especially with the fact that he had a setback a couple months ago. So who knows how bad of a setback it was, even though that's been now officially over a year since he ended up tearing the majority of his ligaments in his right knee when he had to fight against Shane Burgos. But that's somebody to look out for, because Emmett is a player, and man, the guy hits hard. I believe this guy's like 14-2 if I'm not mistaken. I gotta look on his exact record. Sherdog 16-2. I'm so sorry, Josh Emmett. 16-2. Yes, he is 16-2. That'd be a great fight, because Emmett has, great power in his right hand, and Chikadze is somebody that does not see still. That's a fight I would like to see. Don't be surprised if you see Josh Emmett versus Giga Chikadze as a fight that gets him closer towards getting towards the title. He's not getting the Max Holloway fight. As for Edson Barboza, right? With Barboza, had a tough loss. We're most likely not going to see him fight until maybe December or early 2022. Wouldn't shock me, and it wouldn't be that bad to run it back against Dan Ige, or maybe just fight Hakeem Dawodu. Dawodu was supposed to fight Shane Burgos. You beat up on Shane Burgos. Dawodu, wants to crack in, wants to become one of the upper echelon featherweights in this division. Would be a great matchup. Would love to see that fight. And then we had the tough finale contestants. Co-main event was Brian Battle, right, versus Hector Urbina. And wow, Brian Battle has one of the coolest names in the UFC, but also has one of the worst nicknames in the UFC, in my opinion, because Brian Battle is badass, but the nickname Pooh Bear just doesn't resonate with me. I don't know. It doesn't seem manly enough, But he was fighting Hector Urbina, who had brothers, on the Tough Show. He had, I believe it was Eli, and I can't remember the other guy's name. One of them ended up fighting inside of the UFC. The other one didn't, lost in the preliminaries. But yeah, Urbina has made it as far as any of his two other brothers in the Tough Show, and I get it. Was a late replacement. He gave it everything he had. I felt like the only way that Hector Urbina was going to win is he ended up getting a knockout inside of the first round, in which he was very close. He battled it out. He just had a huge adrenaline coming into that first round, knocking down Brian Battle, hurting him bad, jumping into mount. And, I thought it was going to be over soon. But, Brian Battle, no pun intended, but he did battle back. He battled back and, was able to survive the round. Going into the second round, he saw that Urbina wasn't moving as fast as he was in the first round. Capitalized, took advantage of the moment, was able to bring him down to the floor, applied a squeeze. Wasn't a rear naked choke. Applied a squeeze on towards the chin, forcing Urbina to tap out, and Battle ends up claiming, the Ultimate Fighter finale trophy. Now, what's next for Battle? I have no idea. Middleweight, there's tons of options that he could go with, but I'm not gonna pick a fight for him when it comes to him just winning it all in tough. Going into the bantamweight, Ricky Turcios versus Brady Highstand. Man, oh man, this was definitely fight of the night. I know they didn't get officially 50 G's, or anything like that. Dana White said he was gonna throw more money towards them, But man, oh man, Brady Heiston has phenomenal wrestling, right? He's part of that team with Juliana Pena, with Michael Chiesa, and it just shows how good his wrestling skills is. And this guy's like a leech. This guy's on you and doesn't let go of you, and he hurts you, all right? But Ricky Turcios, he has phenomenal jiu-jitsu, won his black belt, all right, after the fight, but just showed that even if he has his back against, his back on the floor, he's able to display, pure damage using his elbows. He ended up cutting up Brady Heistan, all right, from his back using his elbows. He was able to display phenomenal striking. Honestly, it reminded me of like a very mini Tony Ferguson, but was able to win the fight by split decision. Ricky Turcios is your Ultimate Fighter season finale 29 champ. So very happy to see that. As for Ricky Turcios, bantamweight is very stacked from top to bottom, from number 50 all the way to number 1. That is one of the deepest divisions. All right, you got fighters like Adrian Yanez, Chris Moutinho, Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera, Frankie Edgar. All right, the list goes on and on. Ricky Turcios, I can't pick a fight for him for the future, just because they got the Dana White Contender Series coming up, so maybe they might throw maybe Dana White and the matchmaking committee, they're gonna probably have him fight one of the Contender Series contestants or something like that, and just build him up from there. But this guy has a bright future. I think he has a bigger future than Brian Battle. We also had Gerald Meerschaert versus I can never pronounce this guy's name, and I'm sorry if I butcher your name, but Magomed Muradov versus Gerald Meerschaert. Phenomenal fight. But Magomed Muradov is part of the Floyd Mayweather team, the Money Team, right? I believe he is the only MMA fighter on that roster. And man, oh man, this guy has great boxing skills. Great boxing skills. He has a true future, in the UFC. But Meerschaert accidentally kicked him in the groin, and I don't know. It just took the wind out of Muradov, because after that, he wasn't the same. And then Meerschaert just capitalized, was able to get him onto the floor, hurt him, and then was able to make him tap out. And that had to be one of the biggest upsets of the card, just because who would have thought Gerald Meerschaert was going to make Magomed Muradov, submit, make him tap out? Not me. I know that Meerschaert has the most submissions in the middleweight division, history-wise, middleweight division history. But man, that was phenomenal stuff. And this is like the first time in 3 years that Meerschaert has even had a winning streak. I know he lost his last time towards Hamza Chimaev, who's fighting for UFC 267 against the Leech himself. But man, what a great fight for Gerald Meerschaert. And then lastly, the return of Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee versus Daniel D-Ron Rodriguez. This is a fight that I was looking forward to, because last time we saw Kevin Lee, he ended up losing towards Charles Oliveira, who ends up becoming the champ in the bantamweight division. And Daniel Rodriguez, right, it's a late replacement for Sean Brady. Sean Brady wasn't feeling well, so Kevin Lee wanted to just go through with it. He wanted to get back into the octagon, and Daniel Rodriguez capitalized on the biggest moment of his young career, all right? This guy displayed the jab. This guy's a huge welterweight, all right? Honestly, Daniel Rodriguez looked like somebody that was weighing like 190 pounds instead of 170, and Kevin Lee just looked like a flat-out, 170-pound miniature dude compared to Daniel Rodriguez. But Kevin Lee had the right game plan, was able to utilize his wrestling, and was able to hurt Rodriguez at one point. But Daniel Rodriguez was just too much of a man, displaying his striking, displaying his jab, hurting Kevin Lee, and it was a close fight going into the third round. Lee needed to pin down Rodriguez. Rodriguez needed to use his striking, because there was no way that he was going to win the matchup against Kevin Lee on the ground. But Daniel Rodriguez did his thing, was able to manage, comes in on short notice, wins the fight, and then tells Dana White that he wants to be inside of the top 15. That's the one thing that he wants to do. Will he get it? I don't think so, but I think there are higher horizons ahead of him for Daniel Rodriguez. I think the future is bright for him. I mean, he is one of those guys that I feel like has a very high ceiling in this welterweight division, which it is a very stacked division. Guys like Leon Edwards, Jorge Masvidal, You have I was about to say Tyron Woodley, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Vicente Luque, Gilbert Burns. You have those guys in that division, and Danny Rodriguez has a bright future. Just says a lot about the guy. But yeah, so I think Rodriguez, he's most likely gonna end up fighting somebody along the lines of the Leech, maybe Santiago Ponzinibbio. As for Kevin Lee, I think he might have to take a step back. Maybe realize is 170 pounds a division that he wants to fight in, because it's possible that, he just had rust and he hasn't been in the octagon for that long that was his performance, or maybe not. Who knows? But I think Kevin Lee needs to really think about it with his team, whether he's going to be a 155er or a 170 pounder. So then, guys, I am Flavo Rihanna. Thank you for tuning in for my recap of UFC Vegas 35. Let me know what you guys think. Which fighter should fight which? Who do you want to see the tough finale contestants fight? I know I didn't talk about Andre Petroski versus Michael Gilmore. Only reason why I didn't talk about that is because of the fact that Petroski was not in the finals, and I really didn't want to talk about somebody that was not part of the finals and take that away from somebody that was. All right. So then, guys, let me know what you guys think about the main event: Barboza versus Chikadze, Brian Battle versus Ricky Turcios, Brian Battle versus Gilbert Urbina, Ricky Turcios versus Brady Highstand, Kevin Lee versus Danny Rodriguez, Joe Mearshart versus Magomed Murdoch, and so on and so forth. Until then, guys, I am Flavo Rihanna, and I am signing off. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace, guys, and have a good one.